back their testing kit to our lab, we analyze the results, and then we notify the patient via text message or via email that the results are ready. Then they log into a secure HIPAA-compliant portal, and they're able to retrieve the results there. Their referring physician then also receives a fax report with the results. So even though the service really is quite simple and, I mean, it's not super overly complicated, it's solving a pretty major a pain point for doctors and for patients all across the country. So right now, technically after a vasectomy procedure, you're not considered sterile until you've sent in 2 negative samples. The problem is that right now, less than 50% of patients are actually even sending in, or bringing back, I should say, even one of the testing samples, let alone 2. So less than 25% of people are bringing back the second sample, which you would think that like the testing would be like the easiest part of the procedure, but it's really become one of the most difficult parts because we can't get patients to bring back their testing sample. And as a result, the doctors and the patients really don't know if their vasectomy has worked. And in fact, 1 in 100 vasectomies will indeed fail. And majority of the time, people aren't even aware that vasectomies failed because they've never done the proper testing. So with Melt from Home, we're offering an opportunity to increase testing compliance by increasing convenience. There's been a ton of studies done by different universities and different groups, and it's shown that the reason testing compliance is so low is really due to convenience. A lot of patients don't necessarily live close to their doctor's office. In fact, when I worked at the vasectomy clinic, we dealt with a lot of patients from Wyoming, and they would drive, some of them would drive 3.5 hours just to drop off a sample, which is frankly, I mean, just ridiculous, right? And so a lot of times people are just like, it's not worth it to them. But it's obviously really important to know, if you're gonna go get a vasectomy procedure, it's important to know that it's worked and that you won't potentially have an unwanted pregnancy. So what's working? Are we really increasing testing compliance? What are we doing well here at Melt from Home? So in the last 1.5 years, we have really focused on our validation. There's a lot of healthcare regulations and HIPAA compliant issues, or not issues, but HIPAA compliant rules that we have to follow. And so we've been really working on that for the last 1.5 years. And so as a result, haven't actively pursued customers. But nevertheless, we've had people actively pursue us because of our convenience factor. We've sent out over 1,800 testing kits to patients all across the country. We partner with multiple different hospitals. We feel like we have a strong business model in terms of we have a strong profit margin sitting at 74% right now. We've been able to build a customized database. And again, all of this, we've done over $50,000 in sales, and all of this with virtually no marketing. So we're excited to see, as we really focus on customer acquisition, how that number could exponentially grow. And the thing I'm most excited about is really the increase in patient testing compliance that we've seen. We took a sample size of 800 patients from a couple of our physicians, and we saw that the amount of patients that brought back a sample, or sent back a sample, I should say, doubled, which is huge for patients and for doctors. That means what we're doing is working. So in terms of where we are struggling, or in terms of, again, what's working, I think our process flow, we've been able to really nail that. We've been increasing testing compliance. In terms of what's not working, right now, we really need to acquire, large doctor groups and large clinics. And normally the way we would do a lot of this would be to go to trade shows where doctors are thousands of urologists are coming from across the country looking for new technology, and that's where we would, present and they would see our service. But since that's not really possible due to the, our worldwide pandemic at the moment, we've been cold calling offices. And it's been really difficult to really, reach the decision maker and get a hold of someone who's really making the decision and articulately being able to explain to them what we do and how it can help them, and have them have a desire to work with us. And so with that in mind, moving forward, I think a big part of that is, really nailing down what's the best go-to-market strategy for us. What's the best way to approach these large clinics and these doctors, and then developing a good sales team. Right now, it's just a couple of us, really, and I'm the one that's cold calling, which might be the problem why it's not working. But really, get a couple good salespeople on our team to really help launch and help capture the majority of the market share for post-vasectomy testing. Thank you, I appreciate it. Are there any questions?
couple of key questions I would have is, you talked about the HIPAA regulations, et cetera. You now have is your database insured and very secure? Because that's going to be the key HIPAA's going to look at is you now have a database of all these people doing this, and that's really highly sensitive information. What's your backup for that, for security for that aspect? That's the first question.
Okay, great question. In regards to that, we have a member of our team who's a software engineer, and he spent this last year building out our whole database. So I don't know all the technical terms, if I'm being straight up honest with you, but he's built in a way that is indeed, at this point, HIPAA compliant and secure, whatever that all entails. And that's why, again, we've waited to really actively pursue customers. We haven't turned customers away, but we haven't actively pursued customers because we didn't have those things previously. But at this point, since about May, we have all of those things in place at this point moving forward.
Secondary question, I mean, you talked about a problem, but one of the things that's doing really well is testing by box, and they are going directly to consumer. Have you looked at that aspect as a company, instead of going to the doctor, forcing patients to go to the doctor, say, can I get this, make it much easier if they're coming back here? Can I get this, mail in? Which is a different approach, but probably right now in today's economy, much better return on your investment money. Instead of visiting thousands of doctors, you can just blanket everybody who's potential customer. So
if I just understand your question correctly, go directly to the consumer, like online through, Google AdWords and Instagram ads or whatever.
You're doing a box. I mean, that's right now the big push. They're not necessarily going to the doctors. They went, two areas they went to. Number one, they went to the insurance companies and said, hey, require this, because you need your people to save you money, which you could do also.
Right.
And then they're going to tell the doctors, hey, use this if you want to get reimbursed from us. That's the number one I would push for you guys. Number two is going directly to the consumer. So they would say, the guy would say, hey, I don't really want to come back here and do this in here. It's kind of embarrassing. Do you have those kits I heard about that I could do it at home?
Right. Yeah, no, that's a great point. We definitely have pushed that. We do like Google. We started like 6 months ago. We started Google AdWords, and we see a pretty great return there. And actually, the month of May, we had our highest sales ever, and I think that's actually due to COVID and people knowing they can't go back to the doctor's office, so they found us by looking us up online. And so, I mean, moving forward, we're gonna, I think, push out more like Facebook ads and Instagram ads and stuff like that to go directly to consumer, and then really word of mouth is, I think, like kind of like you were saying, if you hear about it and then you tell your friends or whatever.
The other one's gonna, if the doctor wants to get reimbursed, and the insurance company says, hey, to be compliant, so you don't get sued. I'm your insurance company. I'm holding the ticket if you get sued. Right. You better do this because then you're over compliant. And we go to court. I can say, hey, look, we offered them this and this, and they didn't do it, so the lawsuit's gone.
Right.
And that might be a better place than going to the doctor. Go to those who control his money.
Yeah, and that's actually something that we thought of, and again, moving like here, hopefully shortly, we can get into some of those insurance companies and those big. And one of the reasons we're looking at like kind of big clinics and big hospitals is that there's, for example, we're working with this hospital in Missouri, and they order, they're going to start ordering 400 kits a year from us, prepaid. They're in advance by 400 straight out, whether their patients end up using them or not. And to me, it honestly takes almost the same amount of effort to get like that one customer that gives me 400 orders than trying to get the one. But I think that's a really good point. There's a market, there's a lot of different avenues we could take, and we probably should address each one of those: insurance companies, direct to consumers, and direct to big clinics. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so this might be a question out of ignorance, just with the test. So you're focused on post-vasectomy testing, right?
Correct.
And that's a fairly narrow market and a pretty defined TAM, right? So
right.
Can your test also do like fertility assessment, so you could get a whole nother segment, of customers, not just the vasectomy side, but the ones that are, looking to do an assessment that way, fertility.
Right. That's a great question. We could expand into that market. We don't currently do that because the way our testing works is that we have formalin that preserves the sample, which also means that we don't tell you if the sperm is dead or alive, right? Or so basically, we can only determine if there's sperm present or not. And with a vasectomy, that's totally fine because the goal is no sperm present at all, right? But fertility, it's obviously a little different. But I mean, that's also a good point, and something that I thought a lot about is that we are a pretty narrow market, and we do need to find probably other avenues of, how can we, grow into a bigger company instead of just having one really niche, testing kit. Yeah, great question.
First of all, great job.
Thank you.
Well done, Marissa. And then I wanted to see if you could talk for just a few minutes about the ongoing customer revenue stream, because this isn't just take 2 tests.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, thank you, Darren. That's a great point. So immediately after the procedure, the doctor requires, or again, you're not considered sterile until you've sent in 2 negative samples. And then after that, people don't realize, but a vasectomy can fail at any time. So just because you've done the two samples right after the procedure does not mean down the road that your vasectomy isn't going to fail. And in fact, this happened to my uncle. His vasectomy failed 7 years after his procedure, and his wife got pregnant. So really what patients should be doing is doing their 2 initial testing right after the procedure, and then once a year following that, essentially indefinitely, right? And so I think there's a big opportunity there. That's a good point, Darren, that it's not just the two tests right after the procedure, but really the ongoing kind of like a subscription model where customers could keep coming back and back probably for like 15, 20 years. Again, it depends until you no longer want to get someone pregnant, essentially, right? So hopefully indefinitely. So, I mean, that's good for us in a lot of ways. But yeah, great point. Thanks, Darren. Yes, go ahead.
More to deal with just feedback for you.
Okay.
I see your logo. It's nice. You need to just go back and check psychographics. Those colors are all for females, not for males at all. Actually, semi-repulsive, the light blues and turquoises, we're not attracted to those. It's not what we go to. Symbols look good. Square looks good.
Mm-hmm.
Triangles look good, but the colors are off. I'm just suggesting that maybe take a look at color psychographics and understand a little better on your symbology there to help your clients connect better.
Awesome. Great feedback. Thank you. And actually, that brings up a good point, too, in terms of I think we market a lot towards men, but when I talk to women, usually the women are actually more terrified than the men, right? So I think we actually have and the women generally have the buying power, right? They're the ones that would buy the kit and be like, yeah, you're sending this in. So we probably need to do a better job there of marketing more towards women. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Great point. Thank you for that feedback.
Can I just say how awesome it is, Marissa, that you're a woman up here with this business idea?
Woo!
Come on, guys, let's hear it from Marissa. Seriously, this is more of just a statement. Really impressive. Love the idea. Personal experience of having that fear. When you make a plan, you want that plan to be firm and secure and to move forward, enjoy life without that fear. And this is a situation that is not comfortable and usually will be bypassed because of that uncomfortableness in the doctor's office. So terrific. Kudos to you, Marissa. Good job.
Thank you. Yeah. I know. When I go on dates and people ask what I do, I'm like, just at-home testing. And fortunately, it doesn't usually get past that. But when they start asking questions, I'm like, please stop asking questions. Especially when they get the first date, I'm like, please stop asking questions. I should get more equity because this is probably really decreasing my chance of getting married because they're like, what the heck are you doing with your life?
Well, thank you so very much for paying all sorts of prices in order to provide this service for people.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We have one last question that we love to ask all people who come and present at 1MC, and that is, what can the 1MC community do for you?
That is a great question. Well, first of all, again, thank you for having me. This is awesome practice, great feedback. I appreciate it. I would say if you know anybody that you think would be a good addition to our sales team, I would love, let me know. I would love to be able to, connect with them and kind of talk through, how they could join our team and what we could do moving forward. Yeah, that would be the biggest thing probably.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.